So in the last day or so, Iran's pro-revolutionary guard Tasnim news agency issued a rather interesting statement. It was a list of US-based companies that it said could be subject to attack. It also listed their addresses in the Gulf and in Israel. And they included high-tech companies that are Wall Street darlings like Google, Microsoft, Palantir, IBM, NVIDIA, and Oracle. Now, why would Iran target these companies? I'm Borzu Dergahi. This is the Badlands newsletter podcast. It is Thursday, March 12th, 2026. I'm in Istanbul. Please subscribe to my Substack at borzu.substack.com, and that's spelled B-O-R-Z-O-U. So in addition to the warning from the tech companies, Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, made his first statement in the last few hours, and it was quite something. Remember that this guy's father, wife, sister, and niece died in Israeli airstrikes on the first day of the war, and he didn't seem to be in a very forgiving mood. I think he used the word vengeance or revenge or retribution like 4 or 5 times, his letter that he issued. But he also warned that Iran would be opening additional fronts where the enemy is extremely vulnerable. And he said those fronts will be activated based on relevant considerations, rather vague. These tech companies are one of the fronts where the US, I think, is extremely vulnerable. So to many people, Google and Microsoft and NVIDIA are just like normal companies with cafeterias and good 401k programs, but they're also deeply embedded in the US and other militaries. And these companies also get massive government contracts that keep the cash coming and the profits up. Microsoft, for example, is a major government contractor, and you don't need to take my word for it. This is from a court filing that Microsoft itself filed this week. And I quote, "Microsoft is a major contractor and a key partner to the US Department of War. It's providing American military forces with critical cloud computing, AI, and other technology. Microsoft has long believed in the strong defense of the United States and wants the people who defend it to have access to the nation's best technology." So the reason why Microsoft filed this was to try to help another tech company that's on the Pentagon's blacklist, and that's Amazon-backed Anthropic. Now, Anthropic got into a spat with the Pentagon. The company refused to allow the US military to use its AI for autonomous warfare and domestic surveillance. And that fight between the Pentagon and Anthropic, it really blew up on February 27th when it became public and there was a big statement from Anthropic. Now, the very next day, the US began its war against Iran, and one of its first targets was the town of Minab, where according to the New York Times and the Washington Post, a Tomahawk cruise missile hit an elementary school full of children. The Americans killed over 160 children under the age of 12, according to the news reports. And the US military said it was a targeting error, according to those news reports. But according to the Washington Post, both the Israeli and US militaries are using Palantir technology for battlefield intelligence. The American version is also powered in part by Anthropic. This is far from the first time that these tech firms have been implicated in war or alleged war crimes. Just last year, Microsoft got into hot water when it was revealed that Israel was using its cloud platform as a surveillance tool against Palestinians in Gaza. And it actually pulled the plug on its deals with Israel after this came to light. And as for Google, just this week, it closed a $32 billion deal to buy Wiz, and that's an Israeli cybersecurity firm. Wiz was founded by several members of the Israeli military's intelligence and technology branch, Unit 8200. Then there's Palantir. It's probably the most embedded company in the military of all of them. I should say it's probably the most embedded defense tech company in the military operations of all of them. Its chief executive is kind of gleeful about its role in helping the US and Israel defense establishments. And like a couple years ago, he took out a big ad in the New York Times saying like Palantir is with Israel. Last year, Palantir signed a $10 billion contract with the Pentagon. In fact, they all have Pentagon contracts, all of these companies, including IBM. These tech companies are part of the US and Israeli machinery of war, and Iran knows this. Palantir's Alex Karp recently boasted to his own investors that the company kills people. These companies have offices and personnel all over the world, and Iran is warning them that they are also targets now, and they could also be killed. I'm Borzu Deragahi, founder of the Substack newsletter Badlands. This is the podcast. Please subscribe, or if you're watching on YouTube, hit the follow button. Thanks a lot.